I'm Sam Waterston. You're watching Visionaries, proud to present its 11th season on public television.
Visionaries is produced in partnership with the Ash Institute for Democratic Governance and Innovation at Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. Visionaries was made possible in part by the Exposition Foundation, Incorporated, the Kenneth A. Scott Charitable Trust, a Key Bank trust, and by Dr. Fred Eshelman. Additional funding has been provided by the following.
Sometimes you read the paper and watch the news, and it seems like there's more bad news than good in the world. But you know what? It's just not true.
I at least can hold on to something, that there's something, maybe it's small, but there's something that I'm doing to make a difference.
It's just a feeling that you have. If you can help people, you have to. There's no alternative.
Every child has potential that we just can't know. And so, to my mind, that's what we're doing. We are saving potential for the future.
There are 1 million kids locked up in jails and detention facilities across America. 1 million kids. Think about that. Ponder the fact that just about every one of them is going to be out on the street sooner or later. Don't you wonder what is going on with these kids? Are they maturing into career criminals, or are they being turned around, directed down a new path? Do we even know which programs work and which don't? You're about to discover how the simple act of asking these questions is changing the juvenile justice system in America. The program is called PBS, Performance-Based Standards, and the results will astound you.
Yeah, locks on the doors, chain stretched across all the entries to the inside.
Kim, what I tell people is that Performance-Based Standards is a program that allows facilities like the Long Creek Youth Development Center to measure what they do day in and day out and use this information to improve the conditions of confinement for kids in this program.
You know, staff morale and the engagement of staff has been an issue in the past.
When I first started here, it was rough, it was scary.
If staff and kids don't feel safe, nothing happens in a facility.
Absolutely. Look, these kids are going to be here for 9 to 12 months. It's important that someone measures what goes on a day-to-day basis in their educational program, in their counseling program.
Did you guys think it was scary when you first got in here?
You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking.
In fact, juvenile institutions have been around since the early 1800s, and they really don't have a great track record in helping kids protect themselves from themselves, protecting them from other kids, or even from abusive staff from time to time. In the late 1980s, the U.S. Congress mandated a conditions of confinement study of juvenile correctional facilities, and they found that conditions had indeed deteriorated.
The children coming into the facilities come in with so many different problems, and the facilities and the staff are all charged with making the child better. That's a hard thing to do. Better educated, better ready to become an adult, better health, better everything.
But there were never any outcomes. We just didn't know whether kids were making progress in the institutions. The Council of Juvenile Correction Administrators was awarded a grant to develop and implement performance-based standards in institutions just like the one we're in today.
One of the strengths of performance-based standards is it asks the facilities twice a year to conduct a climate survey of the children and the youth. And one of the questions that has been most helpful in the survey is, do you fear for your safety? And when they learn the level of fear with the staffs and the youth, it really gives them a lot of information.
I was nervous because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. Like if my safety was in jeopardy or what.
I came in here, you know, and I didn't know what was going on really. And they just sent me to a room and I slept for the first night. And then, you know, next day I got to really think about it. And that's when I really realized, you know, this sucks, you know. done gone and did it now, you know what I mean?
Every kid who comes into this facility or other facilities in the country, and we're talking about 100,000 kids as we speak, behind every one of those kids is a story.
Like, my dad wasn't there for me. My dad was in jail. You know what I mean? My mom wasn't always there.
My dad was never there for me either. But neither was my mom, you know what I mean?
I think it has to do with the family environment so much more. I think it has a lot to do with what goes on around in their community with their friends.
But how much of what we actually do is from what our parents show us and what society shows us?
I don't blame it on my mom or my dad, you know, it was just my choice.
I could have chose to do something better with my time than go out and rob somebody. I could have chose to sit down and read a book. I could have chose to went to school. Instead, I made negative decisions and put myself in a negative place.
You know, these are kids. These are lives. This isn't a, you know, we're not building a house where you're allowed to mess up on the wires and you can tear it back down. You know, these are lives.
I used to be addicted to drugs.
Smile from your face, the innocence, the light from your eyes.
Amy's been through a rough time. Amy's seen a lot more than you or I have seen.
From the beginning, I was really bad and everything. And I thought I was, oh, big, tough girl, blah, blah.
At first, her process was, she was angry, defiant, didn't like the program. It wasn't for her. She didn't need it. Back then, it was more anger, and we weren't really dealing with the actual problems of the kids, and we'd punish them, put them in a room, you stay there until you behave kind of thing. If I'd have stayed on that track, I probably wouldn't be here.
If they see a particular individual that they're having difficulty with, we're able to look at the performance-based standards. We're able to target some specific areas that the staff need help. They provide us some input into the areas they need help. Then we provide them the training they need.
I received extensive training on cutting, which would be self-mutilation, anger management, defiance, children's level of learning.
And as a result, we're seeing far less cutting, far less suicidal behavior. The residents seem to be happier. We're seeing far less assaults on staff, far less assaults, kid-on-kid assaults.
And with all the training and with the new program, I feel safer, the kids feel safer, it's more relaxed. You deal with them in a different manner. It's not like, hey, you, get out of there. It's more, hey, come sit down, talk to me about that.
My coach, Miss Woods, has always been there for me, no matter what.
She's my girl. Amy's definitely my girl. I've been her coach since the day she walked in, and the day she walked in, we didn't click at all. She said, get out of my bleep room before I bleep bleep. And I said, okay, when you're ready, I will come back. And butted heads for probably a couple weeks, and then one day she broke down, and I was there for her.
And then I realized I wanted to get out of here. I want to have a real life. I want to be like real people, you know?
So I used my training, and I counseled her, and I'm so proud of her. Amy is a very wonderful young lady, and she is going to be something when she's out of here.
Found the rest of me, really. Found like the adult side of me.
Remember the Tin Man.
I gave her 2 thumbs up.
He had what he thought he lacked. There's a gate and a fence, and bars to protect from only God knows what lurks outside.
In one of our estates, a new administrator had been appointed, and he was reviewing the conditions of confinement report. And he noticed that his use of room confinement was much higher than all the other facilities in the country.
When we first sat down and we reviewed our first PowerPoint presentation of the PBS model, there was no one near to New Jersey in the amount of time that we allowed for lockup time.
Many facilities didn't see that there was a connection between isolating a youth and suicide attempts and suicide completions. Our data has really reinforced the need for facilities to limit the use of isolation, because there is a direct correlation between the use of isolation and a kid's ability to take his or her own life.
When you see the actual data, it has a profound impact, and it kind of lets you know what direction you have to take.
We provide opportunities for the kids to do things right, then the negative behavior that they had performed in the past under a more punitive system
should hopefully result in more positive behavior, less violence on the campus, less negative interaction between the officers, the civilian staff, the teachers, the kids, and the kids with each other.
Staff here is very key because we have to show them there are better ways. They don't have to rely on punitive measures. That, if anything, what initiates change are the rewards and incentives, something to help make our kids more productive citizens.
Anytime you have change, it is difficult. And historically, the way things were done in a prison environment is very unlike what we do today. But it is catching. You know, once you start to see results, people buy into it. And we've had that change take place here at the training school where people have bought into the process, they've seen it working, and they've passed it along to others.
I believe that there is a lot of good kids here. You know, they're respectful kids. They're trying to do the right thing. They want their lives to be more positive.
And the rehabilitative process seemed to work better in a setting where there's greater interaction between the young men.
Just head on upstairs to the 3rd floor, gentlemen.
The residents come here to learn the embroidery program. Many of the residents come in and they don't have an idea that there's a designer inside. And once they get to the computer and they're able to paste and copy different images and actually create things, it's really a process of an art being formed.
Design a material on a computer and download it on a disk. And it transfers to this machine, which is a machine that can put the material on the hat.
While he downloaded it on the machine, I put it back to the embroidery machine and I set up the colors that I want the image to be like. When I see somebody walking down the street with something I made, I feel good about myself.
I feel good about myself that I can make something instead of always doing something wrong. And I can make something happen, make things for other people, for myself as well.
They will be able to go into any mall and go into an embroidery shop and be able to be job ready. I've also encouraged them to think about going into business for themselves.
What we have here is a training program in ophthalmic sciences. Our goal is to train them to a point where they can go into a prospective eyeglass establishment and say, yes, I do have experience. Let me show you what I know how to do. And once a young man can prove to a prospective employer that he has experience in such a high technical field, they're going to land a job. And they're going to stay gainfully employed once they do land that job.
When the reduction in lockup time began to come down, assaults on staff began to drop. Assaults kid on kid began to drop. Productivity in the school increased. Productivity in vocational programs increased.
Josh has been involved in the program for about 8-9 weeks right now.
If I'd have come here and just been in a room the whole time, you know, having no access to anything other than my 4 walls and my bed, and like just the nothingness of that, would pretty much, I'd be a terrible person.
The Tin Man, go find your heart and take it back.
I come from a really middle-class family, you know, but very nice family. Like, they didn't make any mistakes raising me. It was that I got involved in you know, counterculture when I was very young, you know, with drugs and certain kinds of music, you know, and my interests just expanded in the wrong directions.
If the boy or the girl committed a terrible crime, a court will decide how long they're going to be removed from society for. That is the amount of time we have to make the changes, and we have to work as hard as we possibly can with that child, believing that we can make life better.
In my over 30 years in juvenile corrections, the Performance-Based Standards Project is really the most exciting event I've ever been involved in, because I really feel that it is able to make a staff feel better about the work they do on a day-to-day basis.
Well, it is the first time in my career, and this is 24 years, where I can actually say that I go home with a very rewarding feeling and looking forward to return back on a daily basis to continue the work that we have in process.
it is able to really change the lives of many of these kids. And in some instances, it's able to save the life of a youth.
If I hadn't gotten locked up, who knows where I'd be right now. Now that I've been locked up, though, I've learned a lot about myself, and when I go home, I think I'll be able to perform as more of a, a better person in society instead of just like that kid on the street with the messed up hair, just like, I won't be him anymore, I'll be me. I'll be someone that has a meaning, has a purpose.
Who stole your heart? Maybe no one can say. One day you will find it, I pray.
For the Visionaries, I'm Sam Waterston. See you next time.
Remember the tin.
If you would like more information about Visionaries, the organizations profiled, or would like to recommend a story, please visit our website at visionaries.org.
Who stole your heart? Maybe no one can say. One day you will find it, I pray.
Visionaries is produced in partnership with the Ash Institute for Democratic Governance and Innovation at Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government. Visionaries was made possible in part by the Exposition Foundation, Incorporated, the Kenneth A. Scott Charitable Trust, a Key Bank trust, and by Dr. Fred Eshelman. Additional funding has been provided by the following: